Greetings, friends. Douglas Smith here. I thought I'd talk to you today a little bit about why I do what I do. Why am I a mortgage broker? Why did I start Smith Lending? Why are we on this planet? Let me tell you something. It's not to just exist. You have a purpose. My purpose is to help you buy a home. That's your purpose, is to buy a home. I started doing mortgages actually from just luck. I met a friend who was in the business and I was like, wow, that looks cool. At the time I was working with another friend who was doing kind of like financial services, and I didn't like that business. It was a super hard sell. You had to learn closing tactics, and you brought them into your office and they were gonna sign the document, and it was just, it was cringe, it was gross. I met another friend who was doing mortgages, and that was cool. The people came into the office and they were all smiles, hugs, they were happy. I'm like, what is this? This is crazy. They're so, elated to see you. So that's why I decided mortgages are what I want to do. It seemed a lot more fun. And I got in the business, and I luckily had a great mentor who I worked with. I got a lot of training on how to do it. I call it the old school way. We hammer the phone. Nowadays, all you young kids with your texting and your instant messages and your chat GPTs, we didn't have that back in the day. We had typewriters. Well, we didn't use them, but there was a typewriter in the first office that I worked at, which was pretty crazy. I got in the business, and then I started originating my own loans. There are multiple different ways where you can be a loan officer. So I'm a loan officer, I'm a loan originator. I originate, I create the loan, and I could work for a bank, I could work for a credit union, I'm a broker, I could be a broker. There's multiple different ways where, a loan officer could work. I would think the most common, like for the average person, probably if you were to buy a house, you would think, oh, I would just call my bank, or I would just call maybe Federal Credit Union, because that's all of the marketing that you see, right? That's what everyone sees everywhere, and that's just the first concept that you'd go to. The thing is as I started doing loans and I started diving deeper into them, I learned that actually not the best route for the end consumer. It doesn't give the best interest rate, and it doesn't give the most flexibility. I'm a young loan officer, I'm young, I'm doing loans, and I quickly learned that when clients would come to me and they would say, hey Doug, I'm gonna actually shop the interest rates around. I knew that the company that I worked for didn't have the lowest interest rates, but what I was always taught was that doesn't matter, you've got better service. But at the end of the day, if you can offer the same service and basically close and get the keys to the house and get a lower interest rate, wouldn't you want to go with the lower interest rate? I didn't like that. I didn't like the fact that I knew that someone could get a lower interest rate somewhere else, and it kind of made me start looking around, right? And so that's actually kind of how I found the broker world, because as a broker, you're able to shop around for the mortgage. When I was younger, I was looking at a bunch of different companies, and I walked into this small little office, Brandon. It was a small office. I'm a young hotshot. I was like top 10 in my company nationwide. And I remember someone was like, you got to talk to this guy. And I'm like, I got my 3-piece suit on, and who is this guy? And I remember I met him at his office. We started diving into the rates and into the process flow. And I was really big into process flow. I was really big into systems and structure and tactics. And this guy pulls out an Excel spreadsheet, which I was using an Excel spreadsheet. I'm old school. That's how I do it. And when he did that, I was like, whoa, like you understand fundamentally how to get loans done. I thought that was so cool. And then he was like, well, let's just look at interest rate. And I remember we looked at a client that I was working with at the time, and he said, hey, not only would I save that person a lot of money on their interest rates, I also threw in a 60-inch big screen TV for them at their closing. I was like, what? That is crazy, right? And so I immediately was hooked into the broker world, because I saw finally that I would be able to shop. As a broker, you don't work for one lender. I don't work for one bank. I don't work for one entity. So I can look at all the different entities and I can see, okay, this is what's best for that person. Now, a lot of people aren't brokers because you really have to know what you're doing with loans, which kind of goes back to what I was just talking about the Excel spreadsheet. You have to be fundamentally sound in what you're doing. You have to know a lot of different rules because you're working with a lot of different banks. But if you can grasp that concept and you put markers in place to ensure that it's not going to cause any issues with your loans, hands down is the best way to go. I firmly believe that. There are other applications where it might be better if I worked for one company, because then I could scale my company better. But for the end user, for the person buying the house, the broker is the best. It's hands down, broker is the best. So I started being a mortgage broker for a guy for a long time. And then I actually, through someone else, was shown that, hey, you can open up your own company, which again gives you more control over those interest rates. For me, it's all about the person buying the house. I want them to get the best interest rate, and how do I accomplish that? From what I understand at this point, mortgages are layers, right? You got the loan officer, then the loan officer manager, and then the executive, and then the owner of the, you got all these levels, right? So as you start pulling away at these layers, you start getting a lower and a lower interest rate for the end user, for the buyer. So that's why I started my own company, because I really do think that for someone buying a house, the way you get the best deal is by working with a broker, and preferably the broker that owns the company, because they've stripped every single layer layer away, and you're basically getting baseline interest rates. I mean, that's the best thing possible. So that's why I started my own company. I named it Smith Lending because my name's Douglas Smith, and I'm a genius, and that's so unique. No one ever would have thought of that. No, but I named it Smith Lending because I only planned on just working with myself, for myself, by myself. I didn't plan on having any employees. I didn't plan on really growing. I could by myself, with myself, and I could provide a good provide a good living, support my family. But what happened was, as my family grew, I got married, and then when we were expecting our first kid, and at this point I'm doing a good amount of loans because we're giving people good rates and people are wanting to work with us and we're getting a lot of referrals. So that's when I hired my first assistant. Her name's Megan. She's awesome. And once I hired Megan just started crushing it. I was like, whoa, this is crazy to work with somebody, and it was a lot of fun. And so then it kind of opened up my eyes to, wow, we can actually start growing a company because we've got a great process flow. We offer great interest rates. We're getting a lot of referrals, and I need help doing that. So Megan came on board, and then we hired, I've got a couple other people that work with me at this point, and we've got now a marketing guy who's holding the camera right now, and he would wave at you, but that would take a lot of dexterity. So we're starting to grow now. I still think Smith Lending is a cool name because it's just, again, so unique. But that's why I do what I do. That's how I ended up where I'm at. It's just a slow progress over time. I've been doing loans for 12 years. And then one thing about the journey that I missed too is probably about 4 or 5 years ago, I really started to dive into loans and how underwriting works and how guidelines work, and how do you calculate qualifying income for a self-employed individual with 2 1120S tax returns and multiple rental properties. Now I say that out loud and it's like, okay, that's easy. I just do this, and this, and then I calculate it and then it's done. When issues pop up on loans, oh my gosh, I was like 25 years old. It used to give me freaking ulcers in my stomach. I hated problems on loans because it just meant problems for my buyers, and I didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings, or, I didn't want to disappoint anybody. Nowadays, when there's problems with loans, I can immediately dive into the problem on the loan, get to the source of the problem, and fix the source of the problem. I feel very confident with loans, and that's only through time in the business, time working on loans, time seeing problems, and then you put things in place to prevent that moving forward. And so over time, we've really got a great process flow. We've really got great interest rates, and now this business is a lot of fun. It used to be really, really stressful, but now it's actually a lot of fun. So that's why I do what I do. I really do feel like I've got a great platform for everybody that works with us. I'm excited about helping more people as well. So we're looking to grow. If you want to work with us, give me a call. I hope this helps.